Andrew, thanks for being with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
So, from the time I heard about your business, I've always been very intrigued. And you were only 19 years old when you started this, and you were in school at WashU. Can you tell us how this idea came to be?
Yeah, so I had a summer internship at a venture capital firm when I was at WashU. And while I was at that internship, I was kind of exposed to the whole realm and world of startups. And then when I was on a lunch break at a local restaurant nearby, I was talking to the other intern about how people discover restaurants and how people want to support businesses that are giving back. And somehow also like the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge worked its way into the conversation about how people were like posting, but not necessarily donating as they were raising awareness, so like pros and cons of the campaign. And so then kind of combine these ideas together as, okay, what if somebody could post and by posting they'd be able to donate and they could also be supporting businesses based on their values. So came up with the idea of GiftAMeal as a way to support socially conscious restaurants, help drive traffic to them and also give back.
Can you explain to everyone how exactly it works?
Mhm. So Gifted Meal is a free mobile app, and each time someone takes a photo at one of our partner restaurants, we make a donation to a local food bank. So here in St. Louis, that's Operation Food Search. And that donation helps get one meal from their big facility to one of over 330 local neighborhood pantries so people could access it in their neighborhood. So the restaurants are paying us a monthly subscription to be on the app as a mix of marketing and giving back. And then that's where the money comes from to make donations to give meals.
What's really fascinating to me is how you're solving two problems at once with this company. Do you think it's harder to create a business like that?
Yeah, I mean, for any business that has like a multi-sided marketplace, you have to worry about getting users on the app. You have to worry about like getting restaurants or like businesses involved, so like a B to B to C. And then we also throw in the element of then working with the food banks. So we have to think through how all of our decisions are affecting our partner food banks, the restaurants, and the users, and then gift a meal itself to be sustainable. So I think that there's a challenge there. But what we've also seen is that if there's true synergies in place between in with the way the business model is formed between those different stakeholders, then everybody can end up in a kind of win-win-win-win situation. So as we get more restaurants involved, Gift and Meal has more revenue. Then more users find out about Gift and Meal at the restaurant if they see like a table tent there, or coaster, or window decal, or like a little card in their takeout bag. And then we get more users on the app and then they can take more photos and we can make more donations. So it all kind of works together.
Yeah.
So Andrew, I'm curious, why food, right? What at 19, God knows I was not trying to solve any problems, just me
Right.
personally. But why were you drawn to the idea of bringing awareness to food shortages, right? In
Right.
reference to other things that you could have done.
Yeah, I'd been involved in giving back for a while beforehand. And
Got
I mean, I know I was only 19 then, but before that, I still had a little bit of a history. So I had volunteered at a summer camp for homeless children for a couple of years. And so then I got exposed to children that face food insecurity. And basically, it was a sleepaway camp that was normally for wealthier children. And they opened it up for a week each summer to children that were facing food insecurity. And so that was something where I really started to see kind of how this could affect people and how much fun that the kids would have and they didn't have to worry about this. And then got involved and became vice president of a children's charity that raised about $300,000 for children in need for everything from hunger to mobility to education. And so was really seeing the impact on children. Then, when I was at WashU, I co owned and operated a nonprofit storefront that promoted reuse and sustainability. And that was something that was great. And we diverted about 1.2 tons of waste from landfills annually. But it wasn't something that was hyper scalable outside of WashU's campus. And so with Gift a Meal, what I was looking at is how can I make as big of an impact as possible at the time in people's lives when they're going to most need it and it can most make a difference. So with hunger in particular, it's something that if you can fill somebody's bellies for a day, then it's going to vastly improve their mood in addition to just being able to sustain themselves. And then B, that could also be something that is then the barrier for them to then go try to get like the next job, or be able to pay rent, or be able to pay healthcare bills, or be able to provide for their children, or provide for like after school snacks for their kid or something like that. So that was something that really drew me to Hunger, is the amount of impact that we could have for people, and how it was kind of a gateway to allowing people to do everything else.
Got you. Wow, that's amazing. And are you from St. Louis, or I'm trying to figure out?
Yeah, I'm a transplant. I'm from Los Angeles
Yeah.
originally, then WashU brought me out to St. Louis, and then stuck around and doing GiftAMeal full time.
So after launching GiftAMeal, and you were looking for scalability, like at what point did you really feel like you were getting momentum?
Yeah, there actually was a very direct turning point. So the biggest turning point for us is when we completed a case study with Rich and Charlie's restaurant, just 2 locations on GiftAMeal. They gave us access to their point of sale data, which is like every time somebody swipes the credit card, it pulls the name off the credit card, how much was spent, tipped, etc. And we were able to match the name on the credit card to the name of the GiftAMeal user account. So then that way we could segment the customers that used GiftAMeal and ones that didn't. And we saw that when customers used GiftAMeal, on average, they were spending 24% more per check, returned 45% more frequently, and tipped 14% more. And so once we had that case study done, it was a 7-month case study, then we could actually show the business value to the restaurant, in addition to the giving back of saying, hey, this socially conscious incentive, without having to like discount, just saying, hey, we're going to be giving back, is something that's actually driving some traffic and loyalty to the brand. So once we had that, then our sales of restaurants and getting more of them on the app started to go up. And that was really when it started to take off.
Wow. So how quickly did you see restaurants sign on after that?
Our sales probably doubled or tripled per month after that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And how many restaurants do we have now?
So now we have over 200 partner restaurants, about 35,000 people on the app, and we've given 427,000 meals to those in need.
Wow.
And I know you're not just in the St. Louis area now, that you've spread out to other areas as well. So where else can people find and use the app?
Yeah, so we also have about 15 restaurants in Chicago and a handful in Detroit. So the vast majority are St. Louis, but we're also looking at different markets constantly. And we have people reach out to us from other markets. And so constantly evaluating to see kind of where it's worth our time to make sure that we can make this sustainable in whatever markets we expand to.
What restaurants signed up that you were excited about? I remember when I think about the story of Instagram, there was a question in this podcast called "How I Built This," and the founders of IG felt like the moment they made this when Snoop Dogg or somebody came on board. What restaurant made you so excited to join? That joined the company that made you so excited?
Yeah, it would have been Niche Food Group with Pastaria, Stella Taste Brasserie, with Gerard Kraft owning all of those, and with him being such a renowned chef in the St. Louis area, and James Beard award-winning chef nationally.
Right.
That was something that was like, wow, like we have the support of like one of the biggest food people in St. Louis. That was cool. And another moment of that like happened yesterday. The big food critic / food writer George Mahey from St. Louis Magazine went on the John Carney show on 550 KTRS, and spoke for a few minutes about GiftAMeal and said like kindest stuff about us. And so hearing the support of kind of the big food players in the space for GiftAMeal, either through being a partner restaurant of ours or just somebody who has no stake in it whatsoever, saying good things about us, is something that's been really inspirational for us and motivating.
You pop a few bottles after hearing that? No, just excited.
Yeah, and this kind of stay at home. I don't have champagne here to pop, but yeah, some champagne emojis to the
So while you're on the way to all of the success, before you hit that point of momentum, were there times that were really tough that you felt like giving up?
Yeah, many times. So we kind of call them the face down on the couch moments, because there'd be times that like one of my team members would be face down on the couch and just being like, Andrew, like, I don't know what we're doing. And it's like, okay, let's like step back and evaluate it and everything. But there's been 5 times in our company's history where we've had 1 month of money left in the bank account. And so it was like, okay, we either have to sign up another 5 restaurants, uh, and they need to pay for a year up front. Like we give restaurants an option to pay monthly or pay yearly for a 15% discount. So we need to get cash flow in fast. We need to get a new investor. We need to win a grant. We need to win a pitch competition, something. We need to find a way to cut costs. And through all of this, we've been able to stay lean and scrappy and get through it. And we got our first investment from the Capital Innovators Accelerator in St. Louis, and that gave us kind of the initial boost of 50 grand to get us through, and then raised an angel round of funding, and then won a $50,000 arch grant that keeps us headquartered in St. Louis as we grow. And now it's kind of, we have a decent amount of runway left. I mean, everything that's going on with COVID-19 kind of throws everything into whack, but now it's figuring out, okay, now that we're not running out of money next month, kind of how are we going to not just plateau, how are we going to continually grow this thing?
How did you make the decision on whether you should try and self-fund fully or seek investment?
Yeah. Well, initially I self-funded. So I put all my savings into it, and then wasn't really an option to continue self-funding because I didn't have more savings to put into it. But we did a bunch of pitch competitions and grants and stuff like that before we took on any investor money. And I wanted to delay taking on investor money as long as possible, because our valuation wouldn't be as high. B, I didn't want to take on the burden of investor money, because once you take on money, it's not like 3 months later I could be like, oh, sorry, like I want to go work for some consulting firm or something. Like you can't, like you've taken on that obligation, and that wouldn't be fair to investors. So I wanted to maintain flexibility until I knew GiftAMeal had something. And then C, I just wanted to be able to buy time in order to be able to build this thing according to my own expectations for the growth, and to grow this meticulously rather than feeling pressures from outside parties that might not know the business as well as I do. And so at that point that we accepted Capital Innovators money, I was all in on GiftAMeal. And, I was a junior at WashU when we got that investment. And so I was already committing to work on GiftAMeal post graduation, and didn't pay myself a salary with it until 6 months after graduation either. So, I think that was a really big decision for us, but it was the right decision. And yeah, I think that waiting for investor money is good. And we've had people offer us money since November for GiftAMeal, which is a very fortunate position for us to be in. And we just had another one of those potential investors call me yesterday and said that he was still interested in investing. But I've still said, let's hold back for a second. Let's see how this whole situation evolves, because I want to make sure I'm doing right by the investors. And then also that we don't just have money sitting in the bank doing nothing. If we take on investor money, just as if you take on a loan or anything like that, you want to make sure that you're utilizing that capital to grow, because they could be investing it elsewhere for immediate growth. And so I want to make sure when we take it on, we know what we're going to do with it, and we're going to be able to multiply that money for them.
So Andrew, paint a picture for me, because I am not an entrepreneur by any chance. I know she is, you are. But some people that are watching might want to take that step into going into entrepreneurship. So paint this picture for me of how you went from making a decision to create GiftAMeal to deciding to go on pitch competitions. How did you even find out about pitch? I know you're exposed to venture capitalism, but how did you feel about going into a pitch? Is this something you already used to? Did you struggle pitching? How did all that journey work for you?
Yeah, first off, I would say one of the biggest misconceptions about entrepreneurship is that it's super difficult to start up the company from like the legal side and all that. That side is not the challenge. You pay $50 on the Missouri Secretary of State website and you form an LLC to make your company. So that's easy. The difficult part is getting early validation of your concept and making sure that's the right move and that there is a there.
Yeah.
In terms of like pitching and stuff like that, I mean, that was something that came pretty naturally to me. I debated in high school and everything, and was used to speaking in front of people. And I definitely improved a lot by doing GiftAMeal. But it was just kind of really embracing the company and being passionate, and then figuring out, okay, how am I going to craft my elevator pitch and make it really concise and easy for people to understand? And in order to make a convincing elevator pitch for these pitch competitions, or whether it's an 8-minute pitch or 15-minute or 2-minute pitch, you'd have to know all aspects of the business inside and out and be able to clearly articulate it. So making sure that, we were learning things on the fly, but making sure that we were creating procedures to go by and that we actually thought through all the different aspects of the business was something that was really important for us.
Yeah. So how did the first pitch ever go on GiftAMeal?
The first pitch ever, I'm trying to remember what that would be. Because also, it's not just pitch competitions. I mean, I'm pitching at like a pitch competition. I'm pitching for restaurants to join, pitching to investors, pitching to potential new hires. So, like, it's pitching GiftAMeal, pitching to the media, pitching all the time.
Wow.
And also to clarify, like, most of these pitches are failures too.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I wanted you to elaborate on.
Yeah. So I think for like our last round of funding, we had 9 investors in the round, and I pitched to about 100. So, like for a startup, like a 10%, just about a little less like success rate for investors is, pretty solid, but still that was a lot of no's that I got.
Wow.
Or for like restaurants early on, like it took me pitching probably 20 restaurants before I could sign up the first restaurant onto a free plan about GiftAMeal at the very beginning. Which is crazy to think about. Like I was saying, like, this is something free. Can you sign up for it? And they were like, no. I was like, okay. But yeah, I mean, it's just learning by doing and being comfortable with the failure, and constantly learning and iterating and not taking it personally.
What it takes to build a successful profit per purpose was the way that you phrased it on your site, the profit for purpose business. What do you think it takes to make a business like that successful that might be different than a regular profit driven business?
Yeah, I think number one most important thing is it needs to be 100% genuine at the core. If there's any business that's like claiming to be profits with a purpose and it's not genuine, like if you're claiming to be a social venture that's giving back to the community, you're held to a higher standard, and you're kind of then morally obligated to be giving back. And if you don't meet that standard, then you're going to be highly criticized. There's a higher bar that there's a bigger fall if you do anything wrong. So I think being genuine about it is the first thing. The second thing is making sure that the business model actually works to have all the different stakeholders work together, and that the profits incentive is aligned with the purpose incentive. So there's not a trade-off between profits and purpose, but both can grow together. So I think that's important. And then I think what's third most important is making sure that you're going to be best in using the messaging of the purpose nature of it in order to be fitting at the core of the company. Or you could say, we're just going to be a normal company and have some type of corporate social responsibility. So kind of figuring out which lane you want to go in is important, because not every company needs to be able to say, okay, for every one of my products we buy, we're going to be giving something like with GiftAMeal, buy one, give one, or Tom Shoes, or Warby Parker. There's still other ways you could give that's non-monetary, or you could be saying we're going to join the 1% pledge to give 1% of proceeds to a certain cause or anything like that. So there's a lot of different ways to give, but I think finding what's going to be most the best fit for your brand is something really important.
Yeah. So since you started, what moments have really stood out to you where you knew, okay, I'm doing the right thing, I feel good about this, the genuine side of you is lighting up and like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, this is part of why I'm here?
I'd say when we hit 100,000 meals, that was kind of like the first time that I was like, okay, like this is getting somewhere. And
well, you said 100,000 meals.
Yeah, so we're at 427,000 meals now, in terms of meals provided.
100. I would think by the time you got to 100, you would say, I'm definitely getting somewhere.
Yeah, but I think it's different. Like, when I graduated WashU in May 2017, we'd given about 30,000.
Yeah.
And then it was like a little bit of incremental growth month to month. But then once we hit 100,000, it was starting to hit that kind of bump and increase to become more exponential. And that was when I saw, okay, this isn't something that is just getting through because people want to help a young entrepreneur and because like I'm smart enough to push this somewhere. Does the idea on its own merit actually have weight to get somewhere?
Yeah.
Because I had the confidence in myself as an entrepreneur that I could take a pretty bad idea and through like my own skill and through asking for people for help, be able to push it to a certain point. But there's only so far you could do that. So at what point was this going to be something scalable? So that was kind of the first point for me.
That's when you knew it wasn't just your friends at Wash U, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, tell us how things are for you now, because restaurants are closed. Typically, people are going in, they're seeing your table tents, they're participating. How does that affect you, and how have you creatively used this time to make more impact?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about the concept of gift meal, go into a restaurant, take a photo. We use the phone's location to verify you're actually at the restaurant. That's how we do it. And then we make the donation to the food bank. You can't go into the restaurants anymore. And so with dine-in restaurants closed 100%, theoretically, that would mean no one could use GiftAMeal anymore. So you weren't previously able to use GiftAMeal at home for like takeout delivery. So we had to pivot GiftAMeal. So we did this, I think we did this like 3 or 4 days before dine-in officially closed, when we kind of saw the writing on the wall. So we pivoted to allow people to take a picture of their takeout, delivery, or gift card purchase from home in order to give a meal to someone to need. So they could still support these local restaurants while also giving back. So that was the first thing we did. The next thing we did is thinking about like the stakeholders. Again, we have the restaurants, then we have the community. Most of the people that are helped through Operation Food Search, our partner food bank, are children and the elderly. And the elderly are most at risk for COVID-19, and children with schools being closed down don't have access to school lunches anymore. And so social services are scrambling, trying to figure out how are these children going to get fed. And so this was a time that we need to make a bigger impact. So we launched a donation campaign to Operation Food Search, where we pledged to match up to $5,000 in donations. And in just over a week, we've raised over $20,000 for that. So that was enough to provide 8,000 meal kits to families in St. Louis. So that was great. Then on the restaurants, again, we've been looking to see how can we promote them the best we can. So trying to promote them on social media and everything to get the word out. And then also, if a restaurant does have a surplus of food or extra food that they weren't able to sell, we've been coordinating food donations so that the restaurant can donate that food to Operation Food Search and they could get it to the neighborhood pantries where people could access it. And then for the restaurants as well, they're struggling a ton throughout this. A lot have had to temporarily close. A lot are trying to do takeout delivery, but they're still struggling. And so with GiftAMeal, normally they're paying us about $49 a month. It's not a huge cost, but it's still an extra cost for them. And so we offered to our restaurants, if you can't pay during the crisis, you don't have to. And so, that's a hit to our revenue. And so, we're taking in less money and then we're donating a bunch more out than normal. So that cash flow doesn't seem to make a ton of sense for long term, but it was something that was really important for us to do in this kind of defining moment for us as a company and meeting our mission and supporting both the restaurants and the community. So that's kind of been our response for this whole crisis, and it's constantly evolving. And we're always in talks with other people in the community for how we can partner up and how can we be supporting the healthcare workers that are in the hospitals. How can we be supporting restaurant employees that were laid off? So we're just trying to do everything we can and stay open to all the different options. And then trust in terms of like the profits with a purpose mindset is that if we are super purpose driven, both because it's the right thing to do, but also like for the state of the company, if we're really purpose driven during this time, then that's going to reap business benefits down the road for us. Our restaurants have been super appreciative for it. Operation Food Search has been super appreciative. We've gotten a lot of PR from this as well. And so, that's how we can kind of justify it on the profit side is this is going to be positive for the company long term. And then for the purpose side, we're making a huge impact.
What's really impressive is the way that when a crisis like this happens, you still rally around your values and your purpose, and you make decisions that way instead of, falling back or retaliating or trying to be really calculated with how things are going to happen. And I've seen the work that you're doing and have had an inside look and part of the matching gift campaign. And I can tell you that I can see how things will come back to you fivefold because you've been able to do that and have that foresight and be a partner instead of a vendor.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was like even like Get to Meal is not a huge team. We have three of us full time and two part time. But also, people on our team were offering, "Hey, Andrew, if you need to cut pay during this, like we're okay with that." And I said,
Uh,
"No, like, we need to support you guys." And like one of our employees has two 4-year-old boys and everything, and
wow.
this is important, and we're gonna not just be looking to cut costs. Like we are going to be looking at how can we be supporting everybody, and our employees are stakeholders in this as well, just like the community and the restaurants.
That's fascinating. I mean, I'm thinking about the whole thing, and I like to think about is, have you always wanted to create the business? I mean, I understand going to business school, but has this always been kind of your mission? I mean, you debated in high school, I believe you said. I would
Mhm.
assume you would be a lawyer or something. I wouldn't think of corporate social responsibility or anything like that.
I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I think that if before that venture capital internship, if you told me, Andrew, you're going to be an entrepreneur, I would have said, hell no. Like that is so risky because, for me, like with my motivation, like, I want to have a family down the road and all that and be able to have a nice lifestyle. But if I was able to be an entrepreneur and make $100 million versus going like a safer route of being like a VP of finance at Goldman Sachs or something and still make a lot of money,
Yeah.
the incremental amount of happiness that I would get would be marginal or zero between those two different amounts of money being in the bank. And so I would have thought being an entrepreneur, like, why would I ever do that? It's not going to have any impact on my happiness. I'd have more money, but like that's not going to be the difference at the end of the day for me. Once I hit a certain amount of money, I don't really need anymore.
Gotcha.
And so it wasn't until I was at the venture capital firm that then I was exposed to, okay, it's not just about the money that I'd be making from the potential exit of a startup. It's about the level of impact I could have on other people during it, and also the kind of creative, autonomous decision making that I'd be able to do, where I could really be like kind of taking my vision, putting it out there, and kind of putting the puzzle pieces together to make something new happen. And so that was what really appealed to me about doing a startup. At WashU, I changed majors 8 times, so it wasn't like I was going to do or anything. Um,
Did you say 8 times?
yeah. I got caught up with my old academic advisor last year, and he was like, Andrew, like I kept on thinking I was going to get a call from an angry parent being like, what are you allowing my child to do? But call never came. My parents were very supportive of me exploring what I wanted to do. And, especially it's a little bit of a tangent, but at WashU, there's so many amazing courses and opportunities. They had a 2-week ad drop period where you could add a class, drop a class. And my philosophy was if the class wasn't something that I was super passionate about and I didn't love the professor, I was going to drop the class and take something else
Yeah.
because there were so many other opportunities there. And so whether or not that class is required for a major, I didn't care. I just said, okay, I'm not going to sit through a class that I don't think is going to give value to me when there's so many other classes that would. So,
So now I feel much better about my college career. I think I did it maybe 4 times, but
there you go.
Took you 8 times to choose a career path, and now you've been building this for several years. Are you going to continue in this route? And what does the future look like for you?
I mean, hopefully I'm going to be growing GiftAMeal and everything. And,
it'll be fine.
it's, my goal is still to scale GiftAMeal nationally. And, I know that you guys have been like, oh, 427,000 meals, 100,000 meals, 100 meals is being something big. But, when I look at what this can be, I see that GiftAMeal could be not just a part of a fundraising tool for a food bank, but this could become a major part nationally for all these different local food banks. And, it's hard to think about when you think about just in terms of the numbers and to actually visualize what that impact is. But our goal is to be providing 100 million meals to those in need annually, to really put a dent in the national hunger problem and to be able to not just fill people's bellies for a day, but also be providing nutrition classes and education and things like that, and looking at trying to solve some of the root causes of the there too. So that'd be my goal for where I go. I don't really know where life's gonna take me. Like, I don't know if it's gonna last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, the rest of my life. Don't know what I would do post GiftAMeal. Maybe I do another startup, maybe not. Maybe I do GiftAMeal forever. Maybe I do venture capital. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. So you're excited, not only about the number of meals that you can offer nationally, but also around the education on food insecurity and the kind of problem that it poses.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that's really important, and something with Operation Food Search. Like, we say that we're giving a meal with every photo taken. What that really means is more money is going into their food distribution budget. And so then, if they have more money in that budget, that opens up other funds that they can use for nutrition classes and things like that as well. It's easier to say a meal rather than this is going to fund part of the dish. This is the part of the nutrition class. So we're already kind of supporting it, but I would like to further grow our effort and also work on the like community's population's knowledge about food insecurity, and kind of pushing back on any stigmas behind it.
I know with a lot of nonprofits, many of their donors are older and have more expendable income, and they're the ones that are used to getting direct mail and that type of communication. And so when I see an innovative product like this, an innovative system like this, it makes me think about how those values are now transcending to new generations. Was that something that you thought about when you started the business?
Yeah, I think that when you look at giving by different generations and everything, one of the big motivators behind Gift Meal, as I mentioned, was people wanting to support businesses based on their values. And so I think that's something we're looking at with Gift Meal, is millennials in particular are super well informed about what businesses are doing for the community. How can we make it an easy way for them to give in the way that they want to by choosing which businesses to frequent? And so we want to make it super easy in that capacity. And then we can then encourage them to give on their own as well, like we did with our matching campaign, which was really successful too. But there's the different generational gaps and everything. The generations have surprised me. So, even though a 25 to 34-year-old is going to be the most likely person to have GiftAMeal on their phone in our user base, the 55 plus market is actually the user base that is most active on GiftAMeal.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So harder to get on their phone, but once they have it, they
Yeah,
use it a ton. Because a lot of them are also kind of habitual diners at the same restaurants that are on GiftAMeal. And so they're just super loyal to those restaurants and snapping a picture every time too. So we want to make sure we don't alienate any groups with our messaging, and we want to be encompassing all these groups. But it is a very wide range of people that GiftAMeal is looking to support. And, that's why our rating on the App Store is ages 4 plus, because, it really needs to be something that works for everybody and show that anybody can give.
You look super calm for somebody that's given out 400,000 meals. Like, I feel like your hair should be a mess. You should be like the crazy scientist looking guy.
No haircuts for a while might make my flippy hair thing.
Trust me, I shaved mine myself. It doesn't look too good right now. But, I wanted to find out from you how much hours you put in a day to get this to where it is now.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I don't really track my hours that I work on GiftAMeal. So it's not like I'm like, okay, I'm working a 60-hour week or a 30-hour week or a 90-hour week. I typically set up work hours for myself. Like, typically if I'm going into the office, I'm there from 9 to 5:30 working out of Cortex. So then I kind of have some set hours. So that way I make sure I get sleep, which is super important, so I don't burn out. And then I schedule in time to socialize and see my girlfriend and everything, and just have some alone time and hang out afterward. But I always am checking my email on my phone, and sometimes I'll do a few more hours of work at night. And so it's tough for me to say how many hours I've put into GiftAMeal on a given week or even in total, because it just varies. I put in what I need to make the business thrive. And it's always the delicate balance. Now I have a team built around me, but it used to be if I didn't do anything on the business, then nothing would happen at all. But if I put everything into the business, then I would burn out and GiftAMeal would die because it was fully reliant on me. So I was doing that delicate balance. And so there's still a balance now, but now I have a team built around me as well that helps support me through this. So it's making sure that I work as many hours as I can without burning out and staying happy.
And I really like that you said that, because most of the entrepreneurs I tend to meet, that usually is the biggest challenge, right? Where they put in so much hours or they put in so much into that dream they're building, they lose track of their personal life, and then that's in shambles. But you seem to have a great balance. So
there could be stretches where you're like, okay, I'm going to do a 2-week sprint on GiftAMeal. That's super important. And I'm not going to have a lot of time for other stuff, but this is what I'll do. And, sometimes I do that, but I still need to make sure that I'm constantly self-aware of where I'm at personally to make sure that like I'm keeping myself sane and happy and, that I'm going to be okay through this too.
Especially because you're the main spokesperson. So you're like the visionary in the life of the brand.
Right. And, it's interesting because that's one of the things I look at with GiftAMeal is I very much build my personal brand and GiftAMeal's brand in parallel to one another. And when they become so intertwined, anything that's affecting me personally is going to affect the GiftAMeal brand as well. So that could be something has been something that's been very positive, but that's also something that's a little bit dangerous because when they're so intertwined, if I'm not in a good headspace, then GiftAMeal is not going to be in a good spot either. It's really important for me to take care of myself then.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to when you first started the business, what do you know now that you would tell yourself then?
Know a lot of things now, I think. Still figuring stuff out. A lot of things I don't know. I would say, well, first off, like I knew like barely anything about entrepreneurship, even though I had a summer internship. Like that doesn't really mean that much. Like I was looking at like startup pitch decks and I was like, I don't know what you're looking for in this, Mr. Managing Partner. Like how do I know if it's a red flag for the startup? Like all these startups look great. Give them all money. So, I mean, I didn't really know what like a minimum viable product was. And so when I built GiftAMeal originally, I tried to put a bunch of features into this thing to meet my core vision and build the final product rather than building super small, testing a core concept, learning and iterating, asking for feedback. And so with the initial model of GiftAMeal, we ended up having to scrap like over half of the initial app, which then I had to raise a Kickstarter campaign in order to raise the money to pay the developers to undo a bunch of stuff just because I built it for the final version in my mind without actually testing it out. So my advice to entrepreneurs would be start super small and free or cheap to build your initial product. Like build something in Google Forms to do whatever your project is manually. Like if I was doing GiftAMeal going back then, I would have said, okay, just have somebody text this number a picture from the restaurant. And then you're going to text them back and say, okay, we'll give a meal, and then you make the donation. So something that doesn't even require the app, or do a mobile website or something first. There's something sexy about an app, but an app is costly. The first version of GiftAMeal cost $15,500, and that was my savings. So, I should have started smaller, learned, and then iterated.
Wow.
Good. Oh, so I've always wanted to ask this question. I don't know if you're familiar with this podcast called How I Built This, but typically he would ask any entrepreneur this question saying, how much of what you've done now of the success of GiftAMeal is luck and how much of it is just plain hard work?
I'm going to say 50% hard work, 20% luck, and 30% help from other people.
That's
good. I think there's something in that as well. Is a super important factor is that I've just leaned on a ton of other people for support. And I think that's a super important trait in an entrepreneur is being willing to ask for help and putting your ego down and being willing to be wrong. So as much hard work as I could do, if I didn't have the support of the community, of key advisors and things like that, then we wouldn't be here anyways. And so I think that relying on the help of other people then kind of decreases the role luck plays into a little bit. You could say with everything that's happening with this crisis right now, How's GiftAMeal going to, and are we going to be in luck? It's, it's a mix of skill in order to get us to put ourselves in a position that we're going to be building up loyalty with our restaurants and goodwill in the community through our response to this crisis. And but there's also like bad luck that plays roles in things. And sorry, that's just a very big ramble, but
No,
basically,
that is honestly the first time, as much as I've heard that question, that is honestly the first time I've heard it being said like that, and that's probably the most important way to answer it, is understanding the value of having people support your mission and your dream. So it's the best answer I've ever had.
What I would say as well, I'd even decrease the luck portion a little bit, because I think that as much bad luck as you can have in an entrepreneur, the big thing with being a successful entrepreneur is about pivoting and adapting to situations. So, there could have been another entrepreneur in the exact same position with GiftAMeal, and dine-in for restaurants was closed, and then they didn't quickly pivot, and they'd be like, oh, it was bad luck. Blame it on luck. We don't work anything on luck at GiftAMeal, and my team doesn't either. If there's a difficult situation, it's a challenge, we run with it, we pivot and adapt, and we don't just say, shoot, just my luck.
That is an amazing mindset. That is an amazing growth mindset. Then to just, make the best of a situation regardless of how it comes.
Yeah, and I think that that's also something that when you say like my reaction is kind of muted for someone that's provided 400,000 meals, I think it's because it's muted on both ends. It's because I don't allow myself to overreact to both ends of the spectrum, whether it's positive or negative emotions, because I want to make sure that I'm staying level-headed about everything with GiftAMeal and devoted to kind of staying rational and figuring out how we can continue to grow this thing and not get complacent. Because I know as an entrepreneur how quickly the tides can turn, and we've had many ups and downs. So 400,000 meals is great, and sometimes it's nice to sit back and celebrate the impact we've been able to have so far, but it's also being forward looking.
That's why you're the CEO.
What advice would you give to founders that are looking to start a business or a profits for purpose brand?
I would say first talk to the people that would be your customers and get their feedback to see whether there's a need for your product or service, what other things are out there that currently meet the need. Don't be scared off if there's other similar things out there. If there's no competitors, then there's probably a reason why, and there's not a need for the product or service. So talk to the customers about it, do your market research, and then try to build something small to get it going initially to see if there's traction.
Great. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. And it was amazing learning about your business, and thank you for sharing your story and participating.
Andrew, thank you so much. I look forward to hearing an update about this in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone that's on this call or listening later on, you can feel free to reach out to me. My email is andrew@giftameal.com if you guys have any more questions for me. And then definitely the shameless plug, download the GiftAMeal app. We give a meal to the need for each person that creates an account on GiftAMeal, and it's free, so no brainer. And then also you could filter on the app for restaurants during the crisis that are offering curbside pickup, takeout, delivery, or gift cards. So you can help support local.
I don't know how you ever lost a pitch.
Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. This was amazing.
Yep. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.